Hello, welcome back again, everybody. Now we're in chapter 15, Degrade. The sun reappeared the next morning. Remember from chapter 14, they're stuck on an island because of all the high winds creating the big waves. So these are men who like to keep moving. So right now they're stuck on an island. They can't go paddling. This is against their nature. They don't like this. So they're going to be kind of crabby today. The sun reappeared the next morning, but the wind blew with such fury that the brigade was forced to stay on the island another day. For the first time, they were what the canoemen called with great loathing, Degrade. For 2 days, there was work enough to keep them busy. They dried out the freight and regummed their canoes. But by the third day of the wind, Pierre noticed that any comment could start a quarrel. When Bellegarde was serving his soup that night, the inevitable finally happened. Bellois grumbled as usual about the food, but though Bellegarde normally ignored him. That night he spoke up. Okay. Oops. That night he spoke up. Maybe you like to cook for yourself, Bellois. Any idiot could cook this slop, Bellois retorted. Well, you are one idiot I'd like to see try. Ugh, Bellois hacked, spitting into Bellegarde's ladle, tossing his plate to the ground. As Bellois turned to walk away, Bellegarde swung his metal scoop and caught the bowman on the side of his head. Pig! The cook yelled, as Bellois' cap flew off and corn and steam liquid splattered everywhere. With a roar, Bellois charged into the older man, knocking him backward and pinning his arms to the ground with his knees. When Bellois cocked his fist, Pierre assumed it would end quickly, but Bellegarde thought fast. Arching his back with all his strength, he turned his head to one side and launched his knee upward. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Bellois groaned as Bellegarde's bony kneecap caught him in the groin. Ooh. And at the same time, his fist missed Bellegarde's chin and hit the ground with a sickening crunch. For the next few minutes, there was a flurry, of punching. The men yelled for Bellegarde to knock his block off or smash him good. Emile and Pierre both jumped up and down, calling encouragement to the cook. Pierre clenched his fist and punched the air, wishing he could smack Bellois for every insult he'd hurled Pierre's way. Out of the corner of his eye, Pierre even saw that Mackay was urging on old Bellegarde. In spite of all the cheering, Bellois soon emerged on top. It would have ended there if he'd struck a fair blow. Instead, Bellois grabbed Bellegarde by both ears and pounded his head against the ground. La Petite decided this was more than Bellegarde deserved, so he bent down to pull Bellois off. He's had enough now, Jean, La Petite said. But Bellois wasn't through. To everyone's amazement, Bellois, acting as if he'd gone crazy, jumped up and assaulted La Petite. La Petite was taken off guard and fell to his knees. Then, to Pierre's horror, Bellois grabbed a stick of firewood from the pile by the soup kettle and took a swing at La Petite, traveling with the full force of Bellois' paddle-toughened arms. The inch-wide piece of driftwood hit La Petite's head and splintered in half. Neil yelled, "No!" And Charbonneau and Bellegarde both stepped forward to restrain Bellois. But before they could act, Bellois unleashed a kick at La Petite's stomach. Pierre lowered his head, sure that the kick would put La Petite down for good. But when he heard a leathery thwack instead of the thud of a blow he expected, Pierre looked up. La Petite caught Bellois' moccasin in his right hand and lifted his foot straight up. Bellois' shoulders slammed to the ground, and with the sound of a beef slab hitting a butcher block, a rush of breath escaped Bellois. But the strength of his rage brought him to his feet. Bellois lowered his head to charge, but this time La Petite was ready. Pierre saw one fist flash out, and an instant later the attacker was lying unconscious at the base of a pine tree. Pierre guessed the men would talk for many years about what La Petite did next. Hurrying forward, the big man touched Bellois gently on the side of the neck and then bent to check on his breathing. After he was satisfied that Bellois was uninjured, La Petite called, "A kettle, Pierre!" The men applauded when La Petite dumped the lake water over Bellois' head. Bellois shook the confusion from his head and extended his hand. "Well struck, little fellow," he teased. La Petite shook Bellois' hand then, laughing at this crazy idiot who had seemed so intent on killing him only moments before. Still chuckling, he said, "You do swing a mean stick, Jean. It's just like a bowman to mix his work and his pleasure." Wow. These guys. Interesting temperament, isn't it? But yeah, that's the way they were. They like to fight, but they like to fight very quickly. They also forgave very quickly too, for the most part. We'll see what happens next. Stay tuned.